This video will be about building a horseshoe cat. This is pretty popular. I see a lot of people build them. You can use gaming horseshoes, or I like to use real horseshoes the best, if you can get a hold of some. I'll go through some of the different material options as I'm doing the build, but they're a pretty fun little creature to build. Pretty popular, not terribly hard. So here we go. So this would be the start. You just need a couple horseshoes. These ones are pretty rough, but my horseshoe supply is kind of low. So you just want to position them so I like the front legs to be a little bit farther apart. That keeps them from being less tipsy. And it's kind of tricky to get them positioned to where you want them, and then weld them. Once you get a tack on there, they'll stay put though. But I just spread the front out a little farther than the back a little. Bring the top together up here, somewhere in that position, and fold it up. I like to do the tail next. One tip is to, those are my garage door. One tip is to use something kind of heavier. This is like 3/4 inch diameter, but you wind up with all the weight on the front, and once again, I don't like my stuff tipping over and speed bumps or whatnot. So this kind of works good as a counterweight to keep the front from tipping. So that's just a piece of 3/4 inch. You pretty much use anything. It doesn't have to be heavy, but I just like to be heavier. I had some, so it's really rusty too, so kind of matches the horseshoes. And I'll just weld that on there. You can use, going back to horseshoes, you can use the gaming horseshoes. Most people tend to like the real horseshoes. They're a little smaller when you're done as far as the size of it, but that is an option. So the tail is on. The next thing I like to do is pick out a horseshoe for the face. I've kind of gone again with one that's pretty rusty to kind of go with the rest of it. Now you can position this pretty much anywhere and it still looks pretty good. This is kind of offset here because of what I'm using, so I'm going to kind of give them a little turn, kind of the same way the tail's going. But I don't weld this on at this point. I like to build out the eyes, and I do a nose and whiskers, and it's a lot easier to do that with this flat where you can lay it down and get stuff flat. So I'll do that now. I like to do the eyes first, and then you can position the nose and whiskers. For the eyes, you could do washers, nuts. I like to have something that's a little more oval shape. So what I do is come across these springs. A lot of times you get these big springs at a scrap yard, or the wire diameter in that's probably 5/16 or 3/8. And then I just start cuts every third, and I just use a cutoff wheel. And as I cut through, I go down into the next one just a little bit. That gives me a mark. And just cut them in thirds. This spring needs to be a lot longer. The first thing I do is I sand the paint off with a wire wheel first before you cut it as best you can. And then I'll just weld this together here. And I'll get this fitted into the horseshoe. Looks like it's gonna be a little wide. Grind it off or put it on the front, I'm not sure. But pretty much anything round or you can use for the eyes. And then you're just positioning these. You position them so they're sloped down a little bit. That could be sad. If you reverse it to where they're sloped up a little, maybe it's angry. If they're both kind of tilted to one side, maybe it's looking a little, it's confused or it's curious. I'll probably just do this one straight, but it gives you a lot of options there. So I have my eyes cut, so I'm going to get these tacked together and then I'll weld them in here. So I have the eyes welded in. One's a little bit bigger than the other, but that's okay. And I like to do the nose and the whiskers. For the whiskers, you can use nails, you can use bolts. I couldn't find anything I really liked. This cat's kind of taken, it's pretty rough and old and rusty, so I kind of wanted the whiskers to match. So I found this, it was like a control rod for a piece of farm equipment. So kind of all bent up. So I just cut 6 pieces of that. 6 seems to work pretty good. I'm just going to leave this on the end of them. And then just a washer for the front. This one has a little flat on. This is all bent up also. So it kind of staying with the same theme. So I'll just weld this on the back here. Weld the 6 of them on there. And then I will passing thunderstorm. And then I'll just weld this to the back of there. And then we'll be ready to weld the head on. Almost there. So that's done. So the head is now ready for attachment. Just welded the whiskers to the back of the washer, and then I set that on there and welded the whiskers to the inside of the horseshoe, so that this isn't really taking a load. It's welded right to these are welded right to the horseshoe. So if it's bumped or something, those aren't going to break off easy. Now it's just a matter of finding a position that works for that. That should be the last step. All done. This one's kind of a little more rough and rusty. But I kind of like the way it turned out. It kind of all fits together. Thanks for watching.